What a year 2020 was. Super extremes in all directions. 2021 is very questionable. Some have suggested it's the year of recovery, others say it's a worsening crisis leading to collapse. There are certainties though. Higher taxation, more money printing, devaluation of currencies, and more control from the top on everyone else. That gives us a starting point from which to draw inferences on the big questions facing us in the near future. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I've got an interesting video here. I'm recording this right now as we come into the new year, and this is going to really highlight where we're going to be in this near future. A lot of questions remain, a lot of uncertainties, as I've said, and it is an absolute fact that the conditions of 2020 for many will carry on into 2021. What we can do is learn from what has happened and try to use that information to our own advantage. There isn't much for some that they can do if they're, for example, in the restaurant industry or the movie industry. They are unable to actually get what they need to done. And so in some cases, businesses have had to, as they love to use the word, pivot. They had to move in a different direction in order to just survive. Those who did not do that, unfortunately, for so many are dealing with the crisis. And I do think that that will continue here on in. Certain industries have been entirely disrupted and probably will for the foreseeable future. That means that certain places, certain industries, geographic locations, all types of different sectors are going to be negatively or positively impacted by what happened in 2020. Let's keep up to date on that info and try to do our best with what we got. Let's go. There's no doubt that the expansion of money on all levels has been present right now, and it isn't going to stop. As you measure this in any form, it doesn't matter, it has expanded to a great degree. What I'm showing you on the screen is the M1 money stock. Take a look at the M2 money stock. Either way, it's been increasing so rapidly right now, and through 2020, we are looking at an expansion of the money supply, both as it relates to, let's say, what the government has done. You see what the central banks have done on all levels, debt on all levels, corporate debt. This is really something that is truly, and I hate to use the word, but it's unprecedented, because historically we've never seen anything like this. There has never been a global response to a crisis where you have something that cannot be affected whatsoever by what a central bank does, and yet they expanded the monetary supply to such a great degree. It is truly fraudulent, but this is how they got away with it. They used the crisis, and people are accepting simply because, hey, as long as it does something good, I'm not going to say no. Now, the devaluation of currencies and the fact that they're actually backing themselves further into this corner, that's besides the point. This is a problem. Whether you're looking at, like I said, what the central banks are doing, or with what's happening with the governments on the fiscal side, it is a nightmare either way. Not surprisingly, the dollar's on track for the worst year since 2017. We'll see what happens, of course, but it is and shows me that there is quite a significant correlation with what happens in the stock market and what you see with the dollar. Then you have to understand on top of that these are currencies floating against each other. It's not as if the dollar is less valuable. The dollar is still the reserve currency for the most part. You look around the world and the dollar is something that's used by other countries as a secondary or sometimes even primary currency. So they might use their own, but they also use the dollar because it is considered to be stable. It's considered to be valuable all over the place. And so they buy it up. But in relation to real goods, what you pay for your food, what you pay for your healthcare, what you pay for anything, all of that is declining. But is it the US dollar that's declining, or is it all currencies? Yes, all currencies are declining. You look at what's happening with the euro, you look at what's happening with everything, with the pound, with the yen, and anything. They're all doing the same thing. So of course, that is a problem. And you measure that not in the dollar index, you measure it against real goods. Anybody can do this. Simply look at the average payments that you have to make in a given month. All right, what is it? Okay, I got my, let's just say if you pay for healthcare, you got to do that. You got insurance, health insurance, I'm sure no matter where you are. You've got to get into, your mortgage or your rent and your car payments and your gasoline and your energy to heat your home and everything. You add everything up. You don't leave out certain things. You add everything up. Some of those things maybe have gone down. You look at the price of gasoline. Where you are, it may have gone down. But are you driving a lot right now? There's many people who are doing the work from home thing. They don't have to drive. So the price of the gasoline didn't really benefit them as the price of oil dropped down, in some cases, into the negative. Regardless, you see that all of this is truly interconnected with what the central banks are doing. And I'll say it over and over and over again. 19.5 million Americans remain on unemployment at the end of 2020. You're looking at an image of a food distribution event, what they call, but this is going on all over the place. People are in need. And yes, I get it. They're driving nice cars or relatively nice cars. They are living lives where they got the iPhones and so on. But what I see is that people have had their lives disrupted. So they go through a period where they're working, they're making income, maybe there's two incomes, they're paying the bills. Who knows if they've got credit card debt and other forms of debt, I don't know. But something happened and they lost their job. That period of time has now stretched out too far. They've gone months, maybe they were starting to work again and they got booted back out or whatever the case may be. And so they are using these food distribution events or the food banks, just looking at how much of it, the surge, the extreme surge that's been seen is something like we really haven't seen before. And this is in a world where you've got in the United States over 40 million people alone on food stamps. So you already have that set up, and yet people still need to go and get the food bank, the donations here. It's just truly shocking to me to see how far things have come in this year, 2020. This is just a chart that corresponds to the information, whether it's the regular state claims, the unemployment insurance, emergency claims, and so on. It totals them all up. Yes, they have absolutely come down from their peak, but we got to realize that there are 20 million people still here. 20 million people plus all of those others that have been ultimately suffering throughout this period. And what's the solution? Oh yeah, we're going to buy Apple corporate debt. I mean, it's just a joke. Movie theater CEO expects up to 25% permanent decline in attendance. We will see. He's claiming that 2022 will be a more normal year for the movie theater industry. Attendance might be down 15% to 25% on a permanent basis. We also need to broaden our entertainment offerings beyond just the film product. So they need to diversify and get out of what they've been doing. Obviously, a lot of people, they're streaming from home. HBO Max said that they're going to bring out the movies at home and at the theaters at the same time, knowing there aren't many people that are going to the theaters in a lot of these places. The show must go on, literally, so they're just making it happen, the streaming from home. I think a lot of things have changed. It's affecting not just the people in Hollywood. I know a lot of people don't care about them, but understand that imagine, just think about how many people, the individuals doing the costumes and what that means. Well, they got to buy the textiles. So where the textiles are coming from, that's one thing. You've got people sewing things. You've got people doing the lighting. You've got the energy that lights all of those. You've got to see the people that are transporting goods back and forth for them on the movies. What about the caterers? There are chefs involved. There are all those people that are, setting up the food and setting up the sets and making all of this happen. There's so many jobs. And sure, you can displace a whole bunch of them. Look, there's not going to be any movies. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to be waiters at the restaurants? Oops, we don't need those people either right now. This is crazy to see how far it's all come. I mean, I've sat down and actually thought about each and every person and the whole setup and how it works, and then look at how that person not being working anymore suddenly affects 5 people or 10 people or beyond that. It's really crazy to see how widespread this is, and the statistics simply aren't going to show it. In a fitting end to what has been a nightmare 2020 for the dining industry, restaurants and bars will largely miss out on what should be one of the most lucrative nights of the year. This is just something that I wanted to add to it. Really, the deal. You've seen the statistics. The people are either in trouble because of the lockdowns. Maybe their shops aren't allowed to be open at this time. Maybe there's a concern about it as well. So people aren't necessarily dining out. Well, on New Year's, when typically they would be full of people, that's yet another day that these businesses are losing out on big time. So just wanted to add that in here and see how truly unfortunate this has been. Switching gears a little bit, Trans-Pacific shipping rates just popped to an all-time high, and it has been seen all along that the entire shipping industry from top to bottom has been disrupted. It's been all over the place. If anyone's been shipping stuff by air, you would know how crazy expensive it is. And specifically, the reason for that is the fact that when you're shipping goods, a lot of times by air overseas, it's actually in the belly of the plane on commercial flights. So you might be going from, let's just say, New York to Rome, and in the belly of that plane, you've got cargo in there, and that cargo is being shipped internationally. You have nothing to do with it, but of course, this is just trying to make this happen, trying to move those goods from one place to another and do it cheaply as possible, because the fares alone for those individuals on that are not necessarily enough. They can add some cargo to it, make some extra cash, right? Anyway, the point is that the fees have gone up tremendously because no longer do you have as many flights. A lot of the flights simply are not going right now. So the prices have gone up. But now, even looking at what's going on with sea shipping, you're also dealing with an increase. The increase is not as significant as what we've seen with air shipping, that's for sure, but this is something else. So if everything is rising in price, eventually this has to be a problem for the end user. The end user has to pay a higher price. That's your inflation, but somehow it's still under 2%. Whatever. U.S. stock funds record a $354 million inflow in the week. This just gives you an idea of what's been happening. Huge, massive inflows of cash have been floating into stocks. Whether that information is coming from Lipper, whether it's coming from the EPFR, I wanted to bring it to you just to give you an update. One of those stocks that have done very well here in 2020 has been Tesla. Tesla short sellers lost $38 billion in 2020 as the stock surged. Shares are up over 730%. Tesla bears have seen more than $38 billion in mark-to-market losses this year. This is not only the largest mark-to-market loss for any stock this year, it is the largest yearly mark-to-market loss I have ever seen. It's crazy, but this is what's happening. The stock has gone absolutely parabolic, and we'll see where it ends up. Spectacular. Blank check firms hit the jackpot in 2020. Blank check firms, popularly known as Spax, emerged as the most popular investment vehicles and the primary driving force behind the IPOs in 2020, even as overall deal-making activity tumbled to a 3-year low. SPAC stands for absolutely nothing. Okay, if you take the letters SPAC, that actually breaks down to absolutely Nothing. Nobody knows what goes on in here, but it's a way to take money from investors and certainly sell big claims. Look, I'm obviously exaggerating, but the point is very simple. At this point in time, people are flush with cash. They've got this money coming in. They want the yield. They're not going to go buy German buns. They're not going to go get some treasuries for 1% or whatever it is on the return. They want big money. They want to find the next Amazon. They want to find something that's going to make them the next Jeff Bezos. And how are they going to do that? Well, they heard about this thing called the Spax. They put their money in and let it ride. This is all something that just shows you what kind of mania we're living through today. Whether it continues throughout 2021, that remains to be seen. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you're supporting me. I want to thank you for that. Simply by clicking a button on your screen, you help the creator of this channel. Thank you very much. If you want to learn how to sell stuff online, people are talking all the time about the success of Amazon, how they're hiring people like crazy left, right, and center, and they're buying 7 shares of Amazon. Instead, you could build a business around it and actually produce income and have incredibly low taxation, but that's a whole different story. If you want to learn about it for free, 100% for free, theamazongps.com. If you want to know about the financial system, you want to understand central banks, you want to know about the money printing and how it has failed every single time. I talked about it in these 2 books. They fit into each other like lock and key. So definitely check them out at the link in the description. And if you want the audiobook, themoneygps.com. Wait a second. Hold on a second. Have you seen this video? Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Click it. I'll see you there.